Hi, how are you doing today? We're doing another series discussion. Are you tired of me yet? My goal for 2023 is to focus on finishing series, so it makes sense that there will be a lot of series discussions throughout the year. But here's another one. This time we're talking about the Kane Chronicles by Riordan, which, yes, another Riordan series. I'm also trying to make my way to Riordan's backlist. So the series discussion will have no spoilers in it, so you don't need to worry about watching this video. So let's start it off with an overall synopsis for this series. At the start of this novel, it's been 6 years ago since the mother of Carter and Sadie passed away, and Carter has been living with their father on the road. They've been going from one place to another, as their father is a historian. Specifically, like, his field of interest is Egyptian mythology and ancient Egypt, so they've been going from like one place to another to like sites to find new things or like give readings on certain elements of ancient Egypt, you know. Sadie has been living with their grandparents, so in Great Britain, in England, because there was like this huge custody battle after their mom died, and the grandparents managed to get custody of Sadie but not of Carter. Like, every so often, like, Carter and their father get to visit Sadie. That's just in the custody agreement, and the book starts on Christmas Eve when one of these visits takes place, and their father decides to take them to the British Museum to look at a certain artifact of ancient Egypt that is in the museum that he wants to share with the children, and he also kind of like wants to investigate, I guess. But as they are there, their father ends up performing like a summoning ritual and summons this like creature that also immediately banishes their father into like another realm or something. We don't know exactly at the start of the book, and basically everything becomes a mess because of that, and eventually Sadie and Carter are rescued by their uncle Amos, who they barely knew the existence of before they started this book, but he is the brother of their father, and he teaches them about Egyptian mythology and ancient Egypt, and basically all the stories are true, and their family is magical and performs magic, and what their father was trying to do was to summon the god Set, which is not exactly allowed, so we had to do that in secret. And now Sadie and Carter kind of have to enter this magical world to be able to save their father and also potentially the world. That was a terrible description. I am sorry. So like always, we start off these series discussions with a ranking of the books. We're going from my personal least favorite to my personal favorite. So in last place, we have The Throne of Fire for me, then The Serpent's Shadow, and my favorite was The Red Pyramid. So let's dive into some individual reviews so you can know why the ranking is the way it is. So we're starting off with the first book in a series, The Red Pyramid, which I gave 5 stars to, and like I said before, it's my favorite in a series. I thought this book was just so much fun. Like, I had such a blast while reading this book, honestly. I thought Carter and Sadie were amazing characters to follow. I really loved them as like separate people. They were very fun to follow, and then their dynamic as siblings was also very interesting because they spent so much of their lives separate. Because, like I said at the beginning of this book, it's been 6 years since their mom passed away and since they were separated, and at the beginning of the book, Sadie is 12 and Carter is 14 or 15, I believe. So they did spend like most of their lives separated, so and only seeing each other occasionally. So they have this very interesting dynamic where they have lived such different lives but do still have this very strong sibling bond with each other. Like, they've always been together, and that's something I thought was really interesting to write a novel to read, and also very fun. They also had like great banter between each other, and it was so fun seeing their back and forth. We also get both perspectives in this book, which in the series just in general, and that was incredibly fun to read as well. And overall, I thought the plot was very action-packed. Like, it really, the action kicked off. Like, the beginning is like slow as we're setting up things, but it doesn't breathe slow. It's fun. And then like the first bit of action happens, and it just action up until the very end, and like mysteries to solve and people to run away from and stuff like that. And I thought all of that was so much fun as well. And I did not want to put down this book while reading it because I was just so enthralled with every single thing happening in it. And I also really loved the magic system and learning about ancient Egypt and Egyptian mythology and how that plays into the magic system. I thought all of that was so interesting because the other books that I've read by Riordan is like the Percy Jackson universe, which technically all of these series take place in the same universe, but this one specifically focusing on Greek and Roman gods. And I feel like the magic system is very straightforward in her world. Like if you accept that the gods are real and everything, like everything else is like very straightforward and very simple. But I feel like here there's like actually like an entire magic system and like different spells to be casted and different types of magic and stuff like that. And I thought all of that was very interesting, and I really like how Riordan like rooted that in actual mythology and stuff like that. I thought that was really well done, and I love learning about mythology, Egyptian mythology and ancient Egypt, because that's something I personally don't know a whole lot about. I know a couple of things but not the most, so I love just learning about things along with our characters. And yeah, I overall just had a lot of fun. It's not a 5-star for me because I did have some issues with it. I felt like the characters were very passive part of the story, I feel like, because they often were led by other characters with more experience to the things that they needed to do instead of figuring things out on their own, which I get that this is their introduction to the world, so they need a helping guide, but I just felt it was a bit unrealistic how they were constantly passed off from one person to another. But yeah, then the second book is The Throne of Fire, which I gave 5 stars to. Like I said before, is my least favorite in the series. I was very angry with this book a lot because it just, from the first book, there's an incredible drop in quality in my opinion. I thought this book was incredibly boring. This entire book we have kind of this race against the clock element, where basically there's this thing that's happening in 4 days, and if Sadie and Carter don't do a certain thing, that will mean basically like the end of the world. And we do have this race and clock element as well in the first book, but I feel like in the first book we have like a week, and in this one we have 4 days at the start of it. But so, you know, almost no time at all, and it's constantly emphasized. It's like, oh, we only have like 4 days, oh, time's running down, oh, we're only on 3 days now. And it just felt like there was no urgency actually in what they were doing. Like we constantly go on side quests in this book, and we're doing things that are completely unnecessary and slows down the pace. I'm like, you have 4 days, why are you spending an entire day doing something that's not relevant at all? And it just really bothered me because I didn't get it when they were doing these stuff. I also thought Sadie and Carter's personalities were very weird in this book. Like Sadie was incredibly annoying, and I just really didn't like following her. She was very like confident, but like in a way that was as arrogant, not as confident or fun. And also I didn't like how she like played dumb throughout a lot of it, and she was so flippant, and I didn't like it at all. And it felt very different from the Sadie I got to know in the first book. And then Carter just had a complete personality wipe out. Like he had no personality at all in this book. He just was constantly doing what other people told him to do. He made dumb decision after dumb decision, even though in the first book he is established as being a very smart person. And I just wasn't a fan. And just, yeah, overall this book was very disappointing for me, just because it was not at all what the first book was at all. And I get, you know, series progress and do different things, but I feel like there was such a high standard placed with that first book because it was so much fun, and then this book just was none of that. It was an incredibly boring plot. The characters weren't themselves, and I just wasn't a fan of it. So I reluctantly read The Serpent Shadow after that, which I also gave it 5 stars to. I don't know if I just liked this more than The Throne of Fire because I wasn't as upset by it, because at this point I had come to expect kind of to be disappointed by it, and I was kind of expecting to not like it anymore because I already had that with the second book. So I don't know if that's the reason, but I liked it just a tad bit more than the second book because I went in with expectations of absolutely despising this book instead of absolutely loving this book. I did with book 2, but there you go. I also thought this book was boring. Again, this is one where we have not a direct race against the clock, but we do know a threat is on the horizon and we need to do this before the threat comes, but there's no like actual like in this many days it needs to happen kind of thing. And again, I just felt like not a whole lot happened in the book. It moved very slowly. There was no sense of urgency or even a sense of a threat really. Like we were told like, oh, this is the thing that we need to be on the lookout for, but then like I felt like that didn't come into fruition until like the very end. And I also thought this book was incredibly predictable. About like 90% of like the big things that happened in this book, like the big reveals, big twists I saw coming from like the end of book 1. I was like, oh, obviously that's like the direction the series is gonna go in. And then the other 10% were things that I feel like I already knew were coming from like somewhere within this book, and therefore I just also felt like the book was very predictable, and it was very disappointing because these moments didn't end up leaving an impact on me, because I was like, oh yeah, of course this happened, like was shocked by this. And I don't know, I just wish it had done something more on those fronts, or maybe, I don't know, not have that much foreshadowing as it ended up having. I also feel like this book focuses a lot on the romances that are introduced into this series. It's been present since book 1, but like very much in the background, annoying me to no end still, but they come very much to the forefront in this book, especially with the ending of this book. And I just really don't like those romances because, one, they just feel a bit icky in the way they were set up, but also I don't like how they were developed throughout the series at all, because they weren't developed at all. And the fact that there was so much focus on those romances in this book, it just annoyed me even more. And I just thought this was overall a very disappointing end to the series, because, you know, from a series finale you expect something like epic, and this was completely the opposite of this. Like, this was so incredibly meh, this experience of reading this book. Like, everything about it was just like, I guess. And like nothing really like stood out to me. Yeah, I guess you can like guess my overall thoughts on the series. In my opinion, it started off really good and really fun, and I was very, very excited to continue on with the series and maybe have a new favorite series. Sadly enough, that didn't happen, because it very quickly went very badly for me. It was just very disappointing. Like I said, there was just a drop in quality after the first book. It started off really action-packed, but it got so incredibly boring, and I don't know what happens. Sadie became an absolute character of herself, and it's not even talking about Carter, who had no personality at the end of this series. The romances, like I said before, were incredibly questionable, and I just wish they weren't a part of this series at all, because it doesn't need a romance. The only thing that kind of stayed consistent for me throughout this book was my love for the magic system and the integration of Egyptian mythology within the series. I thought all of that was very well done. I thought all of that was very interesting, and I loved when we just got to learn about these things throughout the series, and that's the only thing that kept consistent throughout all 3 books for me. And yeah, overall it was just a big disappointment to me, and I feel like it hurts even more knowing that I loved the first book so much. Like, I feel like if I read an entire series that is just kind of like meh for me, that doesn't end up being that much of a disappointment. But when I loved the first book so much, to then have the second and third be such massive disappointments, it hurts so much. So yeah, those were all my thoughts on the Kane Chronicles, at least all my spoiler-free thoughts on the Kane Chronicles. If you want to discuss this series with me in spoilery detail, feel free to do so in the comments. Just leave a little spoiler warning at the top of your comment, so people who are watching this video who have not read the series yet know not to read your comments. And yeah, that's everything I have for you today. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!